Ahoy, fellow foreign exchange students.
And welcome aboard the Joy of Trek, an honourable podcast exploring the black voids and mess holes of Star Trek. All of it. I'm Kaki.
I'm Kay.
And Enduring Klingon Women is your chief engineer, Greg.
Ooh! Together we're on a mission through the chain of command of Star Trek to find the subatomic bacteria in every ship's ass. And the excellence in every episode.
Every ship's ass, it really does say that. Even the workaholic benzites. Oh, I had the same.
Because every episode must be someone's favorite, and it might as well be us.
So finish your gagh and join us as we mutiny into the Joy of Trek. Oh, very good. Well, listeners at home, did you guess what today's episode was?
Just look around you.
Just look around you. Just listen to the clues.
Correct. It's a matter of honor.
First aired on February 6th, 1989. Ouch. So long ago.
Yeah.
A story by Wanda M. Haight and Gregory Amos and Burton Armus. Oh, I wonder if that's where they got the name for the who killed Tasha Yar. Teleplay by Burton Armus and directed by Rob Bowman, featuring, well, a fair number of recognizable faces.
Oh, yeah?
Well, one I recognized was Brian Thompson. He played the Klingon second in command, or third in command, I should say.
Oh, yeah.
He has this pronounced, like, set of chompers.
Uh-huh.
Like, he was also the alien bounty hunter in X-Files, and he came back as Romulan, like, General Valdor.
I mean, they just like turn them around and just like slap some different costume on them and like, yeah, there you go. You have another small part.
Oh, yeah. Costume was... So he was hired to play this Klingon and then immediately let go without, like, any indication. And when he finally, like, when he asked, hey, what was the deal? Why was I dropped for this? Yeah, you're too big. You don't fit into Christopher Lloyd's costume from Star Trek 3.
Wow.
And he said, well, if you get, like... I'll do the alterations myself.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
If you just give it to me, then I'll
make it fit.
Fine. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
So like he sewed his own costume.
Damn.
That was still soaked in Christopher Lloyd sweat.
Yeah. I mean, they probably washed it.
Do they?
Don't know. I mean, they've got a whole clothing department in the movie industry specifically to take care of the clothes and like not.
Sure, but like smell-o-vision hasn't been invented yet.
No,
so
but
did they worry about that?
I guess. I mean,
like a kimono has to be completely taken apart in order to be washed. Supposedly, right? There are some forms like, and it has to be sewed back together again. It can't be washed as a whole.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. You'd say, yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's the one with the Klingons. Kay, what happened in this episode, A Matter of Honor, from TNG's Season 2?
Oh, during an exchange program between the Federation and the Klingons, Captain Riker goes on board a Klingon vessel, has to prove himself, has honor and his powers of mutiny in order to save the Enterprise.
Whoa, yeah. Yeah, and also there's a blue guy who's like a real tryhard.
Yes, well, he's a benzonite, or benzate.
A benzite from the planet Benzar.
Yes, from the planet Busybody. So remember a couple episodes ago we were talking about the Starfleet entrance exam. That was also
yes.
That was the guy who like told Wesley that it was a trick question that the intermix ratio of matter to antimatter is always 1-to-1, and like it's mentioned here when like Wesley mistakes him for
Mordok. Yes.
Yeah.
John Putch is the name of the actor. He was so pleased to be asked back.
Yeah.
And then he found out that he was asked back primarily because the prosthetic cost about $5,000 and it was already perfectly fit to his head. So they just hired him again. Yes. And I think he even shows up later on at another benzite. And yeah, we just all have this. These are just ones that look the same.
Yeah.
They have the same 5,000.
How do you tell each other apart? It's like...
We just do.
I love that.
Gosh,
I love
it's
that.
like, oh man, like how racist can you get? Like, oh no, all you benzites look alike. You know, like, dude, you don't say that to someone.
Let's talk about that when we get there,
Okay.
because I do actually think that it's a good sort of variation on that. Hey, what did other people think about this episode?
Generally, but well beloved.
Right? I'm glad to hear that.
Den of Geek calls it competent, engaging, full of heart, humor, and character interplay.
Competence is a bit damning with faint praise.
Well.
It's like a Vulcan compliment.
Oh, that's very
like,
competent of yours, yes.
Well, that would be high praise, I guess. I mean, Sarek at one point describes Picard's career as satisfactory.
Yeah. Oof.
Which he's tremendously pleased with. Like, whoa, that's very high praise from a Vulcan like Sarek.
Tool.com claims the episode set the tone for Klingon-themed episodes and praised both the performance and character arcs for both Riker and Mendon. Okay, Mendon maybe not so. I mean, he develops. Clearly.
I'm a big Mendon arc fan, actually.
Yeah, all right, sure. We're looking forward to hearing about that. Let's see, A- from AV Club.
A-, not just a hardcore minus.
No,
versus
an
plus.
A-,
Yes.
yeah.
Okay, yeah, okay.
The episode's brevity. It praised the episode's brevity. Again, damning with praise. You know,
Yeah. It sure was short.
but they called Riker taking over the park as a cheer-worthy twist.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have worked if it didn't feel earned. Oh, yeah, I say that's a good episode, yeah.
These sentiments really align with the production as well, because Maurice Hurley, showrunner for the second season, who was famously not a Trekkie, not a sci-fi guy. Even in interviews today, he talked about, it was all a bunch of mumbo jumbo. It's so weird. You're out in space and you go boobly boobly. Yeah, no, we tried to focus on telling some good stories, and in this case, he was talking about, A Matter of Honor, it's just a good idea. Now, here are the words of Maurice Hurley in the probably around the 90s. One of the things that the old Star Trek did, which the new Star Trek can't do as well, was make comments on issues. We're going to do a little culture swapping.
Okay.
So we explore what it must be like to be the only black face in a room of 40 white people. That must be kind of tough. Yeah.
Okay.
This was the age when that was still an imaginary exercise that people. Yeah, you just imagine how tough that must have been. But there's a real key sort of subversion. Hurley also says, the Klingon says he's surprised at Riker because he has a sense of humor. And Riker says, son of a gun, I was thinking the same thing. If Riker had said it, it wouldn't have meant anything. But spin it, and suddenly becomes the point of the whole show.
Right, yes.
Director Rob Bowman really enjoyed working on this with Jonathan Frakes because he wanted to get into something with rough and tumble and some action.
Oh, yes. I mean, we certainly got that.
And Rob Bowman says, I was going through my divorce at the time and was escaping into the world of space for some happiness. Oof.
Oh, well, there's nothing wrong with a little bit of escapism from time to time.
Yeah, exactly. It's weird to think that we haven't, seen Klingon culture much before this episode.
No. I mean, yeah, they're just
Second
the bad
season of
guys
Next
who
Generation.
show up and, especially in the original series, they're just the other empire.
Of a particular sort of racial bent.
Well, yes, a bit of shooting occasionally. I guess that's what they say. Is they got a huge responsibility to show a bit more about what Klingons are actually about and how things go when they're not just standing there in front of the view screen posturing. Sorry, it's the word I should have used.
So, a fantastic contribution by Wanda M. Height, Gregory Amos, and Burton Armus. And this episode was recommended to us by Rugger, who's previously recommended episodes to us. Thank you so much. And they say,
I watched Matter of Honor when I was 13 and had black and white views of good and bad. The Klingons are first presented as repulsive and bad, excessively violent and disgusting moving gagh. But in the end, the Klingon aggressive nature saves the day. Riker sees that it's not just aggressive, but it's flexible and adaptable. If Picard ever made a mistake like Captain Kargan, the Enterprise crew would follow him to their death, as they actually do in First Contact until Lily manages to talk Captain Picard down. The episode demonstrates that celebrating diversity does not just let you include people who otherwise wouldn't be, but also helps you adapt to different circumstances, because different experiences and skill sets work best at different times.
Yeah.
That's really good.
That's a very insightful way to phrase it, yes. One thing will pull you into the wrong direction and another time the other one. And it's Riker's got some interesting conflicts on him, which he admirably deals with. The captain is rightfully pissed that he got tricked into getting
Captain Kargan,
that he got tricked into being disposed rather than to be stabbed in the back honorably as he should have been.
Yeah.
But
Riker finds a good solution for that.
I guess he stakes with the spirit of the way Klingons do things, if not by the methods.
And a successful exchange program.
Yes.
We have a second recommendation from Crimson, who has studied the sword, who says that
this is season 2 of The Next Generation. Collarless uniforms, but Riker's got a beard. Here we start to get a proper look at Klingons with some real complexity and individuality. Also, we get a proper look at a whole lot of Klingon food. It's a great episode to show off Riker's character as clever, brave, funny, with good humor, and a real willingness to jump in and just do things. The more so as a personal challenge. We also get a B-plot with awkward Benzite Ensign, who is absolutely a type of person I have met many times. It's a great, fun episode of cultural exchange in a few directions. All in all, a favorite. especially Riker's response to a nominal proposition and his harried look afterwards. Also, apparently, the first appearance of blood wine.
So I heard, yes. Well, thank you for that. We will definitely get into it.
Do you have any warp cores to dump?
I mean, other than the racist all aliens look alike thing, which...
I'll let you do that.
I know, it's not...
And then I'll raise shields.
Yeah.
Because I genuinely think it's subverted. So I saw an interview with Fisher Stevens, and I think it was by Kumail Nanjiani. I'm honestly not completely sure. It was about the representation of Indians in media, and like the voice and the stereotypes. And Fisher Stevens played a brown-faced Indian character in Short Circuit.
Yeah.
Right? It was a case where he was hired first, and then the character was rewritten for some reason to be Indian.
Yes, I guess that was already the start of Indian people working in tech coming over. They wanted...
Maybe something like that kind of stereotype, or some other stereotype. But anyway, instead of recasting the role, Fisher Stevens just got this makeup.
Yeah.
And it's a comedic role, and he has a lot of like jokey lines. But what he did was he just studied, I think it was a Delhi accent. Right, so rather than do the quite offensive stereotypical Apuna Hasapem Petalon from The Simpsons, which is, a made-up voice, like that is what Indians sound like to people who don't know Indian languages.
Yeah.
It's the difference between impersonation and stereotype.
Right, yes.
And he did an impersonation of a person from Delhi, and it's weird casting.
Of course, yeah.
And as he said later,
back in the 80s, that was normal.
And early career, you take the roles that you can get.
That too, yeah.
As he later said. So there's a huge difference between that, which was... a weird situation, but an okay choice, versus Apu, which Harry Shearer, feels quite bad about. And in this case as well, cultures do share a lot of traits, and individuals share various combinations or, reject those.
True.
Which I think was fairly examined. But we'll find each other.
Which is all completely valid, except it still doesn't change the fact that all you aliens look alike. It's literally commenting on the fact that they're identical,
Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, well, that particular scene, it just happens to be a feature of their species. Like he says, we have the same geostructure, so naturally we look alike. He says it himself, we look alike. And Wesley's curiosity, okay, how do you tell each other apart? I mean, it's an awkward question, but it's like asking two people who happen to be twins. You have to deal with both of them. How do I tell you apart? Because I want to call you by the right name.
Right, yeah.
So there's a way,
I mean, in a way...
Can you teach me?
Yeah, possible. On the other hand, sometimes when you see someone approaching from a distance, way before you can actually make out their features, you can just tell from the way they move who that is. And you go oh, that looks familiar. It's is that him? And you can't really quite tell it out. And you're oh, yeah, definitely him.
Clothing style, body language, those sorts of things. But in the way, how do you tell Europeans apart? Well, a lot of them have different hair colors, eye colors, postures. Other cultures or other ethnicities don't have those as the markers where you tell people apart.
And they have just different kind of facial features, which to us seem similar, but have a lot more distinction than we perceive them to be.
Are more important, yeah. Okay,
so let's get into this.
Diving into the episode. Boom! How fucking boring was the start of this episode? I know this is a weird tone for me to come in.
Yeah.
But it opens with a totally nothing scene, which is...
We're approaching Starbase 179, sir.
Half impulse, Mr. Crusher. Going to half impulse.
This is setting nothing up.
We're arriving at Starbase 179.
Procedure.
Which we actually never see. There's not a single shot of Starbase 179 in this episode.
No, there isn't.
It's they kind of approach it, they hold their distance, and we're just it's just a little bit of day-to-day ship operations. I can see how it works,
Oh, actually, you're right, because it is about learning these procedures, and
it's a little bit about there's a little bit of communication with the starbase. There's a little bit of handing over the command,
yeah.
Number
Data
two,
takes control, sits down in a chair. Then we cut to a shot of the Enterprise orbiting this planet.
Not the starbase.
Nothing happens.
Yeah, not the starbase.
And we cut back to Data sitting in the same chair.
Yes.
1 second later. Normally, when you cut away like this, it's to change scene. And we cut right back because nothing more interesting was happening than Data sitting in this fucking chair.
I suspect this might have just been a little bit of episode padding.
Right? It sort of feels like that a little bit. So I'm amazed that Den of Geek said, well, it's It's compact. It's short. No, not really.
All right, so Riker goes to the transporter room with Crusher, Wesley, because the Crusher Senior isn't in this series, I believe. In this season.
No, this was the season, alas, without Gates McFadden, but with Catherine Pulaski. I'm still such a huge fan.
Those of you who are here as replacements can step outside and follow Lieutenant Lewis. He will assign you to your crew quarters.
Lieutenant not appearing in this episode because we don't actually see a Lieutenant Lewis.
And promptly none of them move.
Except the one who is on the exchange program. Yes. Who gets invited. So it's a weird scene.
He's a benzite, and they have really interesting skin texture and color. I mean, you kind of want to say, oh, they're blue skin, but when you actually look at them, there's so many copper highlights.
Yeah, more
tones.
orange. Orange. It kind of looks like they got lichen growing on them or something like that.
It's really interesting, and it has an atmosphere dispenser, or I think actually that's just concentrated.
That's just their personal vape. They're just like these guys are totally. Imagine how insufferable they would be if they had. Oh, maybe that's what happened. He ran out. His canister ran out low, and therefore the insufferability went. That's going to be my deleted scene, where it's like when he comes back to his quarter after being chastised by Worf. And then he goes like, oh shit, my canister was empty. Oh no! I fucked up so badly. I should have really done that. It's just their chill juice that they kind of have to breathe in order to.
My hypothesis is that it's concentrated workahol.
Right, yes.
Because the standard atmospheric composition of 4% workahol is just not enough for benzites.
Yeah.
They need the full 25. Yeah, we have the scene where Wesley...
it kind of works because occasionally when just before he starts doing a task, you can see him just taking a huff from it. Yeah. So
Hey, what do you think that actually is, that vapor coming out of it, as a prop?
It's
like dry ice, like CO2?
I mean...
It seems to evaporate awfully quickly. It doesn't...
this was before vaping, but it would make the most sense that they used glycol. Just or it could just be water. Water vapor? With one of those ultrasonic, those humidifier, just like you.
Yeah.
That seems to make the most sense.
Oh, interesting. Would you be able to get it small enough like that? I've seen those.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah? Okay, cool. Yeah, because I was worried, it doesn't seem awesome to have CO2 that close to your mouth while you have to breathe and talk.
Right, yeah. I mean, I don't think it'd be a problem, but yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense if you just use water vapor. And you can see...
That's a good idea.
Yeah. I mean, either glycol, as in, they use in vapes these days.
Vape potion.
Right,
as I insist on calling it. It's not juice, it's definitely a potion.
Yeah.
I want to tell you how happy I am to be assigned to the Enterprise. It wasn't just luck. I requested it. I know I can be of great help to the ship.
Riker and Brian who is here?
Yeah.
O'Brien's here. Roll their eyes.
Yeah.
Apparently, this is a trait of benzite culture. They just have different priorities, and you have to sell yourself, and you have to praise yourself.
And Miles just doing that little...
That's not how we do it.
Try hard.
And then Riker gets called to the phaser range.
Yes.
Which is this weird little... They've got a little circle that they're standing on in the Ukrainian flag.
Yes.
And they're shooting at these colored dots in a black space.
Yeah. And I think they have to hit their own color. So Picard has to hit the yellows and Riker has to hit the blues.
They also change color, it seems.
Right, because I guess you're not supposed to hit them when they're not your color.
And Picard has this weird stance where he's got one hand raised to his chest.
It's like he's fencing, like he's holding a fencing dagger in his left hand. Oh my God!
That's exactly it. Yes, he's a trained fencer.
And they're just kind of not looking at each other. It's like one of those awkward conversations where it's something we must talk about, but we're going to do it in an environment where we don't have to look at each other.
That vibe too.
So we can just talk about it.
It's such a weird start where you think is the captain up to something? Because he's talking about, have you heard about this exchange program?
The thing is, they both have smug expressions on their face the entire time. And Picard is making, he's going, there's this opportunity. And he's literally making Riker ask for it.
I said I wouldn't mind the assignment, sir.
But then it turns out he isn't actually. He's surprised when Riker wants it.
Any particular reason?
But Riker is got this sly look on him. He's like, "Oh, you sly dog! You're just making me work for it. You know
Picard
I want it."
Picard denies it, and
I know.
Patrick Stewart plays it with genuine surprise. These are just two completely different agendas. I wonder if they this was the intention, because these characters are not aligned. They don't understand one another.
Right. I mean, it's like, I might be interested in her. Excuse me? What?
Yeah, because he just missed.
And then you see Rex going like, you bastard, you're really making me say it again, aren't you? And it's...
Oh.
Well, I'll inform Starbase of your acceptance. They'll contact the Klingon vessel, make the arrangements.
Fade out.
Go to credits.
No music. No stakes have been set up. 80s television was a different kind of beast. The credits rock, of course, and when we come back from them, it's Lieutenant Worf who says,
I have studied and know everything about my heritage.
Because he was adopted as a human.
He hands him... Is this where he gives him the control device?
Yeah. No,
but the more important part is where they're talking about, like, excuse me, I'm not entirely sure. Like, it says here, among the first officer's duties is to execute the captain.
Yes.
Yeah.
See, when and if the captain becomes weak or unable to perform, it is expected that his honorable retirement should be assisted by his first. Your second officer will assassinate you for the same reasons.
Specifically, assassinate.
Right, yes. I mean, it's the honorable stab in the back, which is...
In the chest, one imagines.
That's, well, yeah. I mean, assassination is usually not done. I mean...
Well, it's not everyone has gone to the Elim Garak School of Marksmanship.
You'd shoot a man in the back.
Well, it's the safest way, isn't it?
Yes, very enthusiastic. And you're right. It is the safest way.
But it's more of a, rather than relieving them of command, it's just like stabity.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing. Like, relieving of command is actually quite difficult in human change of command.
Of course, rightfully so.
Yep.
It usually tends to come to a fine line between, is this mutiny and there's a fantastic example of that in BSG. Where there's basically a standoff between Roslin and Adama. And it basically comes down to the fact, like, okay, who are the guys who are holding the guns going to side with?
Yeah. Like, is this a legitimate coup, or is it one of those other ones? Like, what?
Right, yeah. I mean, I think it's on the Enterprise. There's only a few people who can relieve the captain. I mean, the
medical officer.
And the counselor, I think. So,
that makes sense. I mean, well, at least while they themselves are outside of the chain of command, so the medical officer can't take command, I guess, unless she's the only person in the universe one time.
Yes.
She's literally, you can't be captain until you're literally the only person in the universe, as happens exactly to Beverly Crusher.
Yes. And I guess, like, when Troy gets her bridge certification, I guess that puts her in the chain of command. Yeah.
We don't get to see Troy this episode, do we?
No, she's not in here.
No, neither Geordie. This is the first episode without LeVar Burton.
Oh.
That's a wonderful method of maintaining a constant control factor over defensive shields. But I'm sure there's a way to improve response time.
He's shoulder surfing, but, like, isn't that what you're supposed to do on an exchange training program?
He's doing it in a smug, like, oh, can I just make a suggestion? It's like, oh, if you just did it my way, it would be so much more efficient.
But he starts with a compliment.
Yeah, it's a shit sandwich theory.
No, I'm not gonna. No, I know what you're saying. Where you start with a compliment and then you give them the criticism they actually want, and then you add another compliment at the end, and they're feigned. I don't think they're feigned at all. I think he's genuinely sincere, and that the way that in Benzite culture, like, you still, like, add excellence to theirs.
Okay. I mean, that's a very charitable interpretation of the situation. But
we've seen more of this on Star Trek, especially Enterprise, right? The reintroduction of the Tellarites, who are argumentative and complain at one another. And that's, you make a new friend by walking up to someone and starting a fight, like starting an argument, because that's that's the carrier wave for your communication, is an argument and a challenge of one another. Yeah. Which makes them, like, in Prodigy, Captain Janeway has a Tellarite, like, officer, I think a medical officer, because they will not take your shit.
No, okay.
Right? Humans, or Western humans, will respect the chain of command, and even if we think that someone is being real stupid and shitty, we may let that one slide because you pick your battles, right? And you show respect for deference. Not a Tellarite.
No? Okay. Well, slight counterpoint here, because after he has his first little encounter on the top deck of the bridge, he walks over to the front console where Wesley is sitting there, and he starts, like, does the same thing. It's like...
That is superb designing, absolutely first rate.
Well, would you care to be more specific? Oh, the input sample. It's simple yet efficient enough. You know, it's like... That's damning with praise.
Of course, a minor change of the helm readout would be much more helpful in emergency situations.
It's like,
okay, you're adding a whole lot of inflections to the... Is it maybe just because his face is that way? Because it is a $5,000 prosthetic. It doesn't really move a whole lot.
Right, but I think it's also a little bit conveyed in the... look at it.
In the posture, yeah.
Not in the particular axis, but in theory. My theory turns up his nose a little bit. It's in the body language of the actor as much as it's in the text.
No, that's entirely fair. And maybe that's just how Benzites do it. Like you have to take credit.
Yeah, but you can use that to shoot down any argument. Like maybe that's just how they do it.
Yes. Yeah, I don't know, but okay, this is exactly my argument for this episode. However they act, like if that looks weird to us, that's the point of the episode. Like the problem is that it looks weird to us. There's no indication that he's a bad example of his species or that he's unwelcome in his own chain of command.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, yeah, okay, maybe that's how they do things. It's like, yeah.
Here's the thing. Is he a bad example of a Benzite ensign among Benzites?
Yeah.
We have no way to know.
Unlikely if they're being sent out to unless they're of the kind of culture where, like, you
get rid of the ones that you don't want.
Exactly.
You promote the ones that you don't want out of your way.
Exactly. Which is also possible.
It's just very well possible. Yeah, okay. So... my optimistic reading is, becoming a little less likely, but still, if that's the case, if he's a good example, then anything he does that's annoying is like an example of Benzite excellence, and that's just how Benzites are.
I'll have to mention this to the captain. He is open to some astute observations, isn't he?
And Wesley goes like, well, yeah, never heard him to not be. And it's like, excellent, I shall make a whole list of recommendations. And then see Wesley going like, oh, that's not going to go well. It's like,
see how that goes for you.
Yeah, I love his expression there. Like, Will Wheaton plays that so well there.
He's doing a good job at not treating Mendon like Murdoch.
Right, of course. Yeah, because they were friends. And this is like, although they look identical, it's a different person.
Yep.
Yeah.
Favorite scene. There's food on the table. There's so much amazing
way
food.
Too much food on the table. Like, how much food? Like, who's going to eat this?
I was going to just try everything.
Sure. a little bit wasteful.
Try everything. It just goes back in the replicator.
True.
Everything on here was pooped out by somebody on the Enterprise, right? That's how matter reclamation works.
Yeah.
I haven't even said anything this episode, and I have to chime in and just say, cocky, what? You're not wrong, but what?
So yes, an entire feast, like there's tentacles sticking out of everything, and Riker is gleefully eating everything. And I mean, is he actually enjoying it, or is he actually practicing his, I need to enjoy this, and therefore I'm going to just like...
Good question.
Yeah.
But it's a bit of both, right?
I guess
if
so.
If you're going to enjoy it, you first start by putting on a smile, teaching your body...
Right.
And Pulaski, I like her enthusiasm. Like, she's not completely into it. Like, I'm not actually putting any of this in my mouth, thank you, though. But I like that you like it.
I'm abstaining in honor of your last hour on board.
We're on board.
She's so good. I read prop master Alan Sims says that gagh was just long brown noodles.
Yeah.
The roqueg blood pie was turnips in pumpkin pies dyed red.
Why not?
Chicken frite as Pripyas claw, various animal organs as heart of targ, and fish, eyes, squid, octopus, most of which he bought from the Asian market.
Right, yes.
The Farscape school of cookery. But it looks great.
Oh, yeah. It's like, little things sticking out. I think they're probably lobster antennae or something, which are sticking out of that pie. And then, the tentacles, which are clearly octopus tentacles draped over the edge of the bowl.
Like a little, a little sort of, what's it called, shrimp cocktail.
I was thinking more like one of those crown of rack of lamb, except then...
Crown of rack of lamb?
Yeah, you can take it, there's a way, you can take a rack of lamb, I think ribs, and you can just kind of open it up and fold it, and it turns into a crown shape thing. It's a fairly fancy way of presenting lamb.
Well, sounds interesting. Apologies to our vegetarian listeners for this rather gruesome imagery, but reportedly the Klingons have a primarily carnivorous diet. That's what they need.
This is where Riker gets the transporter beacon from Worf as he is walking to the transporter room.
Yep. Picard just joins them on the table. He gets handed a glass of some goopy orange substance with
stuff sticking out of it.
Sticking out,
which
he takes
I don't know what
and
it
goes,
is.
Well,
Yeah, it's not Earl Grey.
and more crunching. And like, this is also such an incredibly boring fizzle out of a scene, which I say really critically. Like, it's fine. That's just how this one went. But wow, they sure did make television different back then.
Waiter comes bringing more food, even more food, because like there wasn't enough on the table already.
Yeah, there's one bit that he's really excited about.
Yeah. The gagh.
Yeah, very good. Gagh. Well, they call it gagh. Various things. It should be gagh.
Gagh. There's no R in there.
No, but the GH in Klingon orthography is a voiced r. So you don't have to.
It ends in a G, not in a GH.
It does end in GH. I looked it up.
Oh, okay. Well, then the subtitles got it wrong.
Some of them do.
Yeah.
There are, among Klingonists, the examples of Klingon that appear in The Next Generation, which are very rare, don't count as Klingon Chol. I know, the Klingon language, they count as Paramount Chol, because they were made without supervision from Mark Ockrens.
Fair.
Consulting the book that I've brought here as well.
But yes, a quick exchange with the captain. It's like, hello, we've come to give you as your first officer, and he's a fine man indeed. And
says Picard.
The captain is...
Thank you for your opinion, but I will judge that for myself. Screen off.
See, there again, you were really just sort of critical of him when we were watching it, because that's the attitude he gives, but he does start off with thank you.
Oh, yes.
You know, words that don't exist in Klingon, that he learned specifically for humans.
Yes. Okay, we'll get on with that. Because there's actually a comment about that. It's like, hailing frequencies open, and Worf is like, they are returning our hail in proper language. What even that mean?
I noticed that as well. Maybe it just means proper protocol. But yes, it does sound like, they're using the right language, ours.
And there's like, what is it with like Riker not having a universal translator effective when he's on board that ship?
I know. It's a little bit weird. But I do kind of like the opportunity that it gives.
Totally. But yeah, at a certain point, the captain admonishes his first officer, or second officer in that case, to say, like, use their language.
Yes, which we'll get to.
Okay.
Because I have some stuff to tell you about that.
Okay.
And you too, Greg, stand by.
Right.
Mendon notices something on his console.
Oh, yes.
And he zooms in on the diagram of the Klingon bird of prey, the Bop. We get some cool close-ups of his hands doing various work on the...
Yes, pushing buttons, zooming in, scanning a particular area of interest.
Analysis inconclusive. And we see over his shoulder, he watches the captain walk away.
Yeah.
And here, like, we sort of feel this is where someone would speak up. Like, it's weird that he doesn't speak up.
Right, yeah.
Well set up. Riker beams away.
You're not afraid, are you?
No, I'm not.
I would be. Ready, sir.
Although he would later in Deep Space Nine serve aboard the IKS Rotaran. He would serve on a Klingon ship later.
Oh, okay. Well, he had a lot more Worf time by then.
Yeah, haven't we all? The ensign now approaches the captain with his brilliant ideas, which Picard sort of dismisses.
However, here on the Enterprise, we use the chain of command. You will report your observations to Lieutenant Worf.
And he's devastated.
Yeah.
Then apologizes, and Picard goes, no, it's our fault. We didn't explain it well enough to you.
We didn't explain it better at your indoctrination.
Yeah, it's a term they used previously. Like,
it sounds like...
Yeah, we don't like that word.
It seems like it's a... you're here to be indoctrinated.
During your mandatory brainwashing.
Yeah, what goes on there when you get on board the ship?
The indoctrination is also a term that's used for, reading someone in.
Yeah.
Introducing someone to the local doctrine.
Yes.
Worf is not very friendly toward Mendon.
He goes like...
You may impress me.
Yes. It's like, yes, the captain has an open door policy, and you're always welcome to go there.
No, he does not. He very much doesn't have an open door policy. It is closed.
Right, on board the ship. It's like the second officer is kind of like dogging Riker's heels, kind of like looking him over, and Riker's like, what the f***? What's up? And like,
I don't know which this one is. I don't think it's the second officer yet.
Could be.
It's so cool. Like the interior is lit in red, and
always, it always is in Klingon things.
There seems to be there's some atmospheric haze.
Also,
I wonder if they're sensitive to different spectrum, whether the atmosphere for them is completely clear.
Oh, could well be. Yeah.
Right.
But he basically asks him, like, okay.
Now, what were your orders?
To escort you to the captain.
Then proceed.
Get on with it. It's like already starting to lay down his authority a little bit there.
It's a really cool camera move where Riker walks onto the bridge and like underneath these support struts that are there.
Yeah, no. Those like on board the Enterprise, they have micro inertial dampers. These are macro inertial dampers.
Very good. The Captain Kargan, a big old gentleman wearing this long vestment to signify his rank, immediately challenges him.
Commander William Riker of the Starship Enterprise.
That is incorrect.
I don't understand.
You are Commander William Riker, first officer of the Klingon cruiser the Pa.
Interesting to be placed in a position of executive officer straight away as an exchange program. Like, is that the way to learn how things are done? Like, shouldn't the executive officer know better than anyone how things are done already?
Yes.
But, oh well, apparently that's something you can just slot in. But now the second in command comes, who says in Klingon, "Do not believe him, he lies." To which the captain says, "Speak their language."
Oh yeah, that's the one.
Okay,
yes.
I have a treat for you, and Greg as well. Let's have a little jingle here, because I have for you a Klingon lesson. Nuknech, Kay.
Nuknech, Kaki. Nuknech, Greg.
Nuknech, Kay. Nuknech, Kaki.
Nuknech, Greg.
What are we going to learn today?
Today, we're going to learn some Klingon phrases.
Gosh, Kaki, that sounds complicated.
Klingon is a rich language for sure, but we'll get there. In today's episode, A Matter of Honor, we heard a bunch of Klingon phrases.
We sure did, Kaki. I was glad they were subtitled.
Did you recognize this one? Holchaj Yijak.
I do. In the subtitles, it's translated as "speak in their language."
Very good, Kay.
That's exactly what it means. Now let's take a look at those two words, Holchaj and Yijak. Can you say them? Holchaj Yijak.
Holchaj Yijak.
Holchaj Lijat.
Yeah, very good. Now you try at home.
Holchaj.
Holchaj
Holchaj
Yijak.
Lijat.
Yijat. That's great. You both pronounce those words very well.
But what do they mean?
In the translation, we see it means "speak their language."
If I told you the Klingon language was called Klingon and English spoken on Terra was called Terra, what would you make of Holchaj in the phrase "speak their language"?
Hol must mean language.
I'd guess Holchaj would be their language.
That's perfect, both of you. Hol is language, and chaj is the suffix for their, the possessive. Did you guess that at home?
What about Yilchaj?
If I wanted to know if you spoke Klingon, I'd ask, Klingon hol vajatl a. And if you did speak Klingon, you'd answer, Klingon hol vijat.
But I don't speak Klingon, Kaki.
Not yet, okay, but you'll get there. If you don't speak Klingon, you'll answer Klingon hol vijatl be.
I heard the jatl sound in there, but there's bits before and after them.
Yes, Kay. Those are prefixes and suffixes. We have them in English too, and in Klingon they're really important. You heard the suffixes a for questions and be meaning not.
So jatl means speak?
Exactly right. Mashka, Greg. Mashka, Kay.
Thanks, Kaki.
How would we say thanks in Klingon?
There's no Klingon equivalent. When Klingons are finished with a conversation, they just walk the fuck away.
Okay.
Whatever, I guess then.
Cool. So, how do you feel about... I mean, we talked about doing Klingon language lessons.
Yes.
So in the 5 minutes before, it was like I was 10 minutes late because I was just very quickly on my phone in the shops writing out this script.
Oh, wow. I'm impressed.
Thank you.
Oh, yes, that's very sombreros.
Sombreros, Jose. Referencing a Dutch comedy skit that is unfindable by anyone, but fine. This is Brian Thompson I told you about. Like, he was the one who's too tall for Christopher Lloyd's uniform.
Costume, yes.
Oh, he would later also play an officer on the Duras sisters' Birth, Prey, and Generations, along with Guy Vardaman.
Doesn't ring a bell.
No, that's very good. Guy Vardaman was the person after whom Guy Fleegman from Galaxy Quest was named.
Oh.
Because he's in like more episodes of Star Trek than anyone ever. Right up there with Patricia Tolman. He was the body and hand double for Brent Spiner.
Oh, when they were doing the lore hands.
Or just when he was like tapping on controls or whatever.
Right.
Like Brent Spiner could go off and have a snack while someone else was doing it.
Yeah. The captain says,
I would say it is your first command decision.
And Riker's solution to this insubordinate second officer who doesn't believe him.
He kind of stands there looking at him, snarls a little bit. Riker looks at him, turns away, double fist sucker punches him right in the gut.
Breaking all of his fingers.
Yes.
Showing how strong he is by continuing a fight with broken ass fingers.
They have a cool little fight which ends up with the Klingon second officer's head being shoved through a control panel, setting off the sparklers.
Yep.
Much to the captain's delight.
Your only concern is with how you obey my orders. Or do you prefer the rank of prisoner to that of lieutenant?
Back on the Enterprise, Worf is standing over the horseshoe with like just booty touching. He's his little backside is tucked way out there.
Yeah, as Michael Dorn is
showing off the goods.
Yeah.
And he detects there's something wrong on the ship, which Mendon then affirms, oh yes, I noticed that earlier. And Data, who's sitting next to Picard, swivels
around on his chair. Yeah.
I didn't know they could do that. Like, that is such a what the fuck kind of swivel.
Yeah, it's like a little shocked expression, and you didn't mention that?
No one. I have not yet completed my full analysis.
And that's how we do things on a bedside ship.
Yeah, we don't report anything unless, you can have a full analysis, solution, a history, sing the song, write the theme tune, sing the theme tune, play the theme tune.
It's not how we do things, because we'd want, Command wants the opportunity to make decisions as early as possible.
Yes.
And to be in the loop. But imagine like a command structure where that's not the case. Like, no, I don't. Oh, this reminds me of Alfred Hitchcock. Mm-hmm. Alfred Hitchcock famously never looked through the viewfinder of his camera operators.
Right.
Nowadays directors can like review footage immediately because there's just it's called a video village.
Right. Yeah.
It's a set of television screens where they're seeing everything that happens. But no, he'd focus on the scene, and he said like, if I looked over the shoulder of my director, it'd be like I didn't trust my camera person.
Right. Yeah. It's like, that's his job. My job is to like make sure everything the thing. I've told him how I want the shot to be taken. Now it's his job to make sure that they get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've told the focus puller what to do and where, and yeah.
Or not even that. Like I was looking at an interview with the director of RRR, a fantastic Telugu film.
Is it about George R. Martin?
No, it's a sort of mythologized retelling of a few stories. Like, RRR is fantastic. It has the song and dance number Natu Natu, which you may have seen.
Oh, I've heard of it, yes.
That's from there.
Okay.
And so the director talked about, well, my job is to focus on like the performances and the expression. Like I can express preferences to my director, photographer, and my editor, but that's really their job.
Yeah.
So a bedside ship must be much more distributed.
I guess, yeah. I can't imagine how that would work in a combat situation, but it's like, oh, boom. Nobody says anything. 3 minutes later, torpedo hit on deck 14, three casualties.
Okay, but in that case, like the tactical officer will have already responded. No, but like it's a great example. The tactical officer would get that information and would return fire without the captain having to say anything. Like the captain would go off and get a cup of tea and like, tell me when the battle's over and it's time for me to command things again. Because this is your job. Like, what am I going to do? Am I going to make better decisions than the tactical officer who has all the information?
It kind of reminds me of a scene in one of Anne Banks's books where where a ship is carrying a very important passenger. And then like, they were being attacked by other ships, and like,
says the ship's AI.
Says the ship's mind to the passenger, and like, and at a certain point, then start describing the battle as it goes on, and the passenger is like, "Are we in any danger?" Like, sorry, you thought this was live? No, I just slowed it down. The battle was over like in 45 milliseconds. And it's like I'm just slowing it down so I can explain it to you what happened.
I thought you might think it was exciting.
Yeah.
Dinner on the Klingon ship. This is one of the best scenes in all of Star Trek. I
agree.
Right, Crimson and Rucker recommended it. This is everything that you need to know about Star Trek is in this scene.
it's also such a good example. I mean, they really set the tone for Klingons, I guess.
Yeah. As a diverse, complex culture, because there's this tone of ribbing, right?
Yeah.
He's being teased.
Is the food all right, Commander? It's delicious.
Tibia's claw was excellent. I also enjoyed this Breguet lung.
And the roqueg blood pie.
Delicious.
But it's appreciative.
They haven't quite gotten over the sexism yet.
In what way? I mean, obviously it's the 80s, but...
Yeah, I mean, they are talking about the females, one of the females. And, it's like they don't seem to have the equal role that they later are much more portrayed as having.
Gender roles, yeah.
Right, yes.
No, that's definitely the case. Now, of course, the existence of gender roles and sexism are, interrelated, but they're not completely linked.
No, very true.
I mean, I'm thinking of what we know of various Viking cultures. It wasn't a monolith, and it certainly wasn't the sort of biker culture that a lot of people imagine it being. But a gender role could be adopted by a person regardless of biological sex.
Yeah.
It was possible to transition, and it just had a set of social responsibilities and privileges.
Yeah.
Women ran the household among Viking culture, or the wife did anyway.
Mm-hmm.
The mother of the house. So in this case, like you said,
they're kind of ribbing Riker about the food. They're like, "Oh, you're not eating a lot. I'm not that hungry." But everything that they ask him about, he says, like, "Oh, it was excellent. It was delicious."
Yeah.
And then they present him with a bowl of gagh,
which he recognizes, and he's
still moving. Gagh is always best when served live.
But if it's not to your taste, we can get you something easier.
Yes.
And he's got this perfect deadpan.
Yeah.
He's very sincere. We'll get you something easier.
Perhaps we could get one of the females to breastfeed you.
Yeah. Raucous laughter of everybody, which he good-naturedly chuckles along with.
It's the Klingon, it's Klagh, who says to him, are you a typical Federation officer?
Yeah.
Are you a typical human? Are they like you? Which is a slightly racist, but
also,
not really.
Yeah. Like, did they send, I guess I'm wondering if they're all of his caliber, if they send the strongest one that they have, or if they just send an average person.
Yeah. Or how do you differ from the norm?
And, do they know what their norm is and in which way he differs? So, I mean, I can understand the question, but I don't think they'd realize that the answer is meaningless to them, fairly meaningless to them.
Yeah. That's a really good point. Although in this case, he's using it mostly I don't know whether I want to compliment your species or you.
Yes.
Because you have a sense of humor, and I like that. And I want to know whether that's just the person that they sent or...
Vecma makes a bit of a pass at him.
He is not very attractive, but I will have him.
Yeah. And this is where Riker gets back at them. It's like, do you think you'd be up to it? And he goes like...
One or both?
Yeah. Which meets with their approval.
Good answer.
And it also kind of sets it up. It's like, because he doesn't say he could handle both. It's like he's saying he's going one or both, and it's like this is going to be my answer is going to be different depending on which it's going to be. One of them, I'll give it a shot. Two of them probably maybe.
Yeah. Oh, that's a really good point.
Yeah,
it's a really balanced boast.
Exactly.
This scene is so good. We have a second Klingon there. I think that's the one who walked him to the bridge when he first arrived.
Uh-huh.
Now, his name I don't know. Who also, tells him stuff about, you have much to learn about us. And it's this awesome scenario where you're welcomed by people who invite your curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They've accepted your respect. You've shown that, and now you get that. I've talked about this before. The big fantasy that drives sort of Star Trek is that you get to explain to someone who's completely innocent and totally curious about it.
Yeah,
explain emotions to Data.
This is actually a very long scene for Star Trek purposes, and it actually goes into a little bit of culture here as well, which is also as you mentioned the explanation. It's like when it goes into family, it's like what do you look like? I look like my parents, and
they look like me, and I look like them. Which was a great.
And then it goes where's your father? And it's like, oof, sore point.
My father.
So, the other officer, his father died nobly in battle, and then Klagh gets asked this, and he looks away, and he stands up like he's about to narrate into his diary.
Yes.
And everybody else goes...
Second Officer Clark, supplemental log. My father was captured in a battle by Romulans and not allowed to die.
Yeah.
He eventually escaped and now he awaits death on the home planet. So did he not have his ritual suicide kit ready there? I guess that's not allowed anymore after a certain point.
I guess.
I mean, the one that Worf seemed to have at the ready in his room when he...
Well, he was unfit for his duties, so maybe in this case, the father would still be physically fit.
Yeah.
But he's just not permitted or not welcome in any chain of command. And Klagh hasn't seen him.
I will not see you.
And this is a really great exchange, because Riker comes from a human perspective and says, you should.
And she's like...
Klingons do not express feeling the way you do.
Perhaps you should.
We would not know how.
And Riker goes, well, yesterday I didn't know how to eat gagh.
He sporks up a mouthful of...
A spork is antithetical to the Klingon ethos.
I know, it is not. It's definitely more of a pair of...
Knork.
No, I mean, it's like it is a two-pronged fork, which, I mean...
Is it a five?
If I found an item like that in a drawer, then I would think that the person who owns that thing likes to make chocolates. Because it's kind of like a chocolate dipping fork, which you use to when you're making
fondue.
When you're making bonbons, then you basically shape the inside, and then you have this fairly thin two-pronged fork, which you use to dip the bonbon into the chocolate and ease it out on the. That's what it kind of reminds me. Either that or a carving fork, but it's.
Interesting.
Meanwhile, on the Enterprise, analysis is proceeding. They are getting a little bit more information. We still quite don't know what it is, but...
It is confirmed that the organisms feed on some of the compounds that make up the hull of the Enterprise.
Which this subatomic bacteria...
How does that work? It's fine.
I mean, that's usually my line, but...
It's submicron. Yeah, no, I can get that, but...
And the Klingons also have it.
Yeah, we get a cool close-up on the bop, and we see that it's being eaten through. And then Riker is summoned to the bridge, and now we get...
Tell me, Commander Riker, what do you make of this?
Yes, you must have obviously been attacking us.
I'm really intrigued by what the captain is doing here.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's already gone through the full analysis. You know, when he asked Riker that question, he responds, well, let's analyze it first, the way he would if he was asked by Picard.
Well, he's basically setting a series of traps for Riker. It starts off...
Traps?
I would say so, yes.
Okay.
Or challenges, depending on how charitable you want to be about his intent. It's kind of like a parent who knows that their kid has done something wrong and asks them, don't ask them what happened but did you X?
Right.
And the kid has no idea that the parent already knows the full story, and it's just setting the kid up for lying or not.
Yeah,
that's what I mean by entrapment.
I think challenge is a good term, because he's also conveying that through body language.
Right, and basically Riker goes the
Enterprise has no reason to do that, especially with me on board. It makes no sense. Why?
Maybe you want to take us out, and you are being sent to sacrifice yourself in the process, and they could have done that without,
Yeah.
It's
the motivational model that the captain has doesn't really make a lot of logical sense.
No,
which is difficult for Riker.
Yes,
who's in his collarless uniform, but he does have his beard already. Oh, Riker's beard. Oh, next scene is with Mendon, where Wesley goes over him, leaving his station. Apparently, you can just do that.
Okay, I guess maybe he just pushed the P brake button and.
Oh yeah, and he has a wee chat with Mendon, who confesses
I failed. I had an opportunity to show the captain my superior capabilities, and I failed. I can never recover from that.
Yes. Oh, gosh, they must be almost as bad as the Klingons when it comes to punishing mistakes.
This sort of feels like, I don't know, a Japanese visual novel.
Right,
kind of level of stress, where Wesley tries to convey to him,
you just made an error. Captain Picard may not like them, but he knows they turn up from time to time.
Because there's an important... I don't know how this was attributed to Captain Picard, but there's a bit of wisdom. Tolerate mistakes, but not incompetence, and know the difference.
Yeah, good point, yeah.
Because... maybe that's something...
And the other one is even sometimes when you do everything right, you still lose.
Well...
when you make... you can do everything right and still not have the outcome that you wanted.
Yep. That's a lesson Data learns.
Yeah.
And in this case, like he's trying to convey, yeah, that just sucked. Okay, you're not going to be judged on having once failed.
Yeah.
You know, if you do it right the next time, if you improve, that's what people are going to remember.
You're right, I'll do it your way. I'll turn the workahol up to 30% and I will try even harder than before.
And I'll succeed brilliantly, is what he said. That phrase has lived in my head rent-free since 1990 when I saw it on the BBC. Oh, that confidence. Imagine waking up like, oh, this is what I'm going to do and I'll succeed brilliantly.
Yes. Well, if that's actual confidence and not just like something you're telling yourself just to...
Hey, if that gets you through the day, if that gets your confidence up,
you
know, it's as good a strategy as any.
Yeah.
Riker is sent off the bridge.
Yes.
Commander Riker, check the organism growth with engineering.
Just so they can have a little heart-to-heart. And he actually says Clark is actually a captain. I don't think he is trying to with us.
You may be a spy, but he's no coward.
And he also says, hey, humans don't volunteer for death as easily as Klingons do.
Yeah.
Which is a great insight, showing that the curiosity that Riker has is just as present among them, and they're learning as fast as he is. But when he returns, the captain is undeterred.
Well, that's because they see that the Enterprise is actually following them, because the Enterprise is trying to catch them and broadcasting like, hey guys, dude, we found this thing, and which they're completely ignoring. It's like they're like, yeah, the Enterprise is saying like, we discovered this problem, we think you have it as well.
Yep.
We're here to help, which is obviously a trap.
Well, all warfare is based in deception.
True.
Right? The Klingons are honorable warriors, but...
they're allies.
Well... as they say...
although we are on a peaceful mission, we are ready to go into battle instantly.
And Klingons, like Worf does express this at some points, like they're highly like sensitive and instinctual, and like when Worf gets sucker punched, it really bothers him because he should have detected that. That's normal for
should have seen it coming.
For Klingons to be able to sort of sense a vibe of a situation, and certainly a captain has to be able to do that.
Yeah. The Enterprise is scanning hard.
Oh, they're scanning so hard. But there's nothing out there. There's nothing we can see.
Very intensive sweep. So the
intensive. They say it like 20 times this episode.
I noticed it when I did an intensive scan of the paw.
Conduct an intensive scan of the area.
The Enterprise has slowed to impulse speed and is making an intensive sweep.
It's so intensive.
But the conclusion is, since that they don't find any debris, then the Pach, yeah, is probably cloaked.
Yeah, and why would they be cloaked? Oh, I don't know. And Picard doesn't overreact. Showing also, I mean, it's an example in, which problems would you like? Right? Yeah. That's the sort of test of the Klingon style.
Whenever I have a problem, I throw a Molotov cocktail at it and boom, I have a different problem immediately.
Exactly. Oh, there's an example in political or ministerial positions, should you have term limits or not? Well,
right, yeah.
If you don't have term limits on those positions, then you're going to have like entrenched incumbents who are almost impossible to replace.
Yeah.
Oh, gee, I wonder what that could be like.
And if you have term limits, then whoever's in his last term has no reason to fulfill any promises they made.
Right.
And they're working on, like, we have term limits on ministerial positions here in the Netherlands. The result is...
Well, we don't really. I mean, as long as the cabinet lasts, which is, we have elections every 4 years.
Yeah, but term limits in the sense of you can't be reinstated to that post more than X number of times.
I wasn't aware.
Well,
I mean, it doesn't tend to happen, but...
Consider how many ministers of finance we've had who've since gone on to
but it's usually because
banking jobs.
Right, but that's usually because the makeup of the government changes. Sorry, the parliament. That's the word I was looking for. But anyway, let's get back to Star Trek.
Yes, it's just like that statement. Yeah. Which problems do you want to have? Klingon system has problems. Human system has problems.
Well,
which ones do you culturally prefer?
Another test from the captain to Riker. It's like, we are going to attack.
Tell me of the shortest method of attack against the Enterprise.
Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun. And Riker goes like, nope. Like, you break your oath.
He weighs it very carefully. He weighs his words really, really carefully.
Absolutely, yeah.
And both of them do.
I will obey your orders. I will serve this ship as first officer. And in an attack against the Enterprise, I will die with this crew. But I will not break my oath of loyalty to Starfleet.
And like that awareness is something the captain really, really respects.
I'll die with you on board the ship attacking the Enterprise, but I will not give any away of its secrets.
Yep. And the captain says, if you had, I would call you a traitor and killed you now.
But instead you will die with us. You will die like a Klingon.
which is so cool.
Yeah.
This episode is so cool because, like, your sympathy for Kargan, it goes up, it goes down because, yeah, he's Ahabbing.
A little bit, yeah, absolutely. He's completely focused on the wrong thing, but yeah.
That just happens to be an error in judgment that he's making, much like Mendon did.
Mendon, by the way, who has now found the solution.
And now he does it right.
Sir, I have something to report to you immediately.
Yes, go ahead, Ensign.
Right, announces himself, skips the chain of command that he was ordered to, and it was the right judgment because, Captain, I have a resolution, I have a full identification, and that has to go straight to the command.
This information gets amended to the hailing messages, but the captain is still not having it.
I do not believe them. Arm all weapons. Prepare to attack.
And this is where Riker starts getting sneaky.
Yes. He says, okay, I recommend you don't fire until you reach 40,000 kilometers.
Because he knows that's transporter range.
Uh-huh. Why? Because that will...
It will cut down their response time.
Because
Not technically false.
No, because the captain has told Riker that he will be the one to give the order to fire.
Yeah.
I guess a final test of loyalty here.
Yeah, and he has a dagger in his belt that has Riker's chest's name written on it.
In between the third and the fourth rib. But Riker just reaches out to his little pouch and he pulls out the little device.
That he got from Worf. He pulls that out of his boot.
And he's very not sneaky about it. In fact, he's almost drawing attention to it.
Yep.
And the captain falls for it.
Is that a weapon, Commander?
No, sir.
Give it to me.
And he holds on to it like for... Okay, this is really stupid.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Right, as a captain, as anyone, like, involved in any kind of combat or warfare or deception or whatever, this is such a stupid ruse. You shouldn't fall for it.
Unless he is like, that like no Klingon would be so deceitful as to, like, I guess that's a blind spot he maybe has. That he would never really think that he would be tricked into something like that.
Oh, do you think either that's like a blanket blind spot? He can't imagine that kind of low trickery as a captain?
I would think so.
As a captain?
Depends on what the cultural thing, if that just not done. Like,
right, but as
that kind of, I mean, all the time later on, we always see that in the Klingons, whenever they decide to go for, deceitful tactics, then like everybody speaks shamefully of it, but it still works. It's like the sisters who like
the Duras sisters.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly what it's all about, but yeah, whenever a Klingon starts doing like something sneaky and deceitful, then the others are like shocked. It's like, oh, no Klingon would do that.
It's kind of arbitrary. Well, not arbitrary.
Yeah, whatever the plot requires, really.
Well, like their ships have cloaking devices, right? So a sneak attack is not dishonorable.
No, I guess not.
That's the definition. And, as Garrick would say, that is the safest way.
Yeah.
Stab in the back would probably also be fine under some circumstances, but not others.
Yes.
I mean, in the way that we have the concept of perfidy, right? Do you know the term? Like, perfidious behavior is like a false white flag, pretending to surrender.
Oh, right, yes.
As a strategy to lull the enemies.
Which is against war, international war.
It's a war crime.
Crime, yeah.
Something that I think in the animated Star Wars series, Obi-Wan Kenobi has actually done.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, he kind of did that quite a few times now that I think about it. Obi-Wan, you're not really honorable, are you? Come on, man.
Versus in Babylon 5, where, yes, John Sheridan sent a distress signal, a fake distress signal, when his ship was outmaneuvered or outgunned, and the Minbari, which he knew the Minbari would be attracted to, not to provide aid, but to destroy them, because that's their process, leave nothing behind.
Yeah.
So that was not perfidy.
Right.
Because you didn't take an action that would lower the enemy's defenses.
Right. Very good.
Yeah.
The ruse works brilliantly. There's a tense countdown if the distance in 48,000 kilometers, 44,000 kilometers, 40,001 kilometer, 39,999 kilometers.
Do you know, this is the payoff for the scene in the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
Where he asked, like, why was there so much procedure? It was for this, to establish that's the sort of baseline intention.
Yeah.
So it's actually really well done. And Worf says, oh, whoa.
We are receiving an emergency signal from a command transponder. Location 035, Mark 313.
Which apparently made it through the cloaking shields.
Yeah. I mean, that's like, you have these things.
And it was Commander Riker's. Okay, well, beam it aboard.
And the captain goes...
Captain Kargan, the Klingon captain, is suddenly removed from the bridge, and Riker immediately takes over.
Hold where you are, Clag. I relieved Captain Kargan. He was acting in an irrational manner.
And now I am in charge. He immediately sits down, and he kind of challenges Clag to, what you going to do about it? Like, you know, I already kicked your ass once, and it's...
You have a real sort of macho interpretation of all of these. I mean, it's valid, right? It's certainly not invalid.
I mean, what else would it be? It's like...
Well,
and then we get like the... I mean, what she did it like the... Like, I'm the captain now. Unfortunately, that meme didn't exist yet when this first filmed, but it's like...
But you say it like, hey, I've kicked your ass before. Are you going to question that? But I've also got the idea, hey, I've earned your respect.
Oh, absolutely. No,
You've
but
got
that's also part of the importance of the scene in the mess hall, where he basically shows them, like, yeah, he can take as good as he gives or whatever, whichever way you want to turn it.
I mean, with 2 Klingon women, you definitely have to.
Yeah.
Hey! What's the Klingon word for pegging? Chief?
Wow. Tuesday, I think.
Brunch. That's what it translates into.
Okay, well, I can't exactly find that, and I don't know how to, like, construct the different parts of the word. I will just say the Klingon word for sex is kind of funny because it's not chuk. So, not meaning, like, to mate with, and then chuk meaning, like, distance or range or even just, like, grappling. So, fighting always has a chuk suffix for it because you're in close proximity. So, yeah, it's mating with in close proximity, which then begs the question, is there mating with distance involved? What is the Klingon version of cybering is what I'm getting at here. That's what I need to know. I need Klingonists to help me out here.
Riker has no honor. He tricked me!
He stands on the bridge. You can see Worf immediately going like, get my phaser out of here.
Like,
which is a good call because the captain immediately tries to draw his own weapon and starts shooting.
Yep, he doesn't get very far.
No, Worf shoots him first. He stuns him. And Riker goes like, okay, now we are going to do this my way.
Yeah.
Drop cloaking shields.
Obey my orders.
We will be destroyed.
If we are, it will be in battle, and I will die with you.
Do your fucking job and turn down the cloaking shields.
Yeah. Oh, that's a really good point. And also, like, I'm also going to die. Even...
Yeah.
Oh, here's the extra layer I think that's there. If I'm a traitor, then I've done a really good job and I've sacrificed myself, and your death is also honourable.
Yeah, I suppose.
This is actually valid combat,
no,
like
true.
however you spin it.
Yeah.
They drop the cloak, and he hails the Enterprise.
Enterprise, this is Captain William Riker of the Klingon vessel Pach. I order you to lower your shields and surrender.
And he kind of sits there like at this slight angle and with this kind of smug look on his face.
He's like a 60s like talk show host with a cigarette and a martini.
And he knows what he's doing. And he goes like, okay, yeah, lower your shields and surrender.
I order you.
Yeah. And you can see Picard like standing there kind of stunned for a moment. And then you can see the dawning realization on his face and goes like, I see what we're doing here.
Yeah. And he complies.
Yep.
Lower shields, surrender as ordered. Because this is the best solution.
And that's like, and Picard's like, and by the way, while we're surrendered, we can also help you repair your ship.
Oh, cool. Yeah, let's have that.
Yeah, please. Yes, thank you. We appreciate that as a gesture of your surrender.
Because that's something that wouldn't have occurred to Kargan.
No.
The idea that a Starfleet ship would surrender as a part of the process of conflict resolution.
Yeah, normally it's not something that Picard would have done, except he knows that it's Riker, so he knows that like it's a safe move.
I wonder if there are situations where you do it, and maybe that's what we're seeing. Like there are situations where Klingons are willing to die. They're willing to die for their mission. Starfleet crews would be willing to die to save people.
Yes.
And these Klingons are not their enemy, right? They don't want to destroy the Klingons. They would sooner.
No. Well, I think that, like, you know, the fact that Clag thinks that they will die if they lower their shields, they know that they are outgunned by the Enterprise.
Oh, yeah.
The only thing that they have is, like, the advantage of the cloak, that they can fade in and out and take pot shots at the Enterprise.
Yeah, because you'll get one shot.
Right. And then you, and in a straight shootout, they would be, they're going to lose.
Oh, yeah. Klingon birds of prey are small, fast, maneuverable. They come in various sizes.
Yeah, they're very fast. They go warp 9 like everybody else does.
Well... They do have a nice tight turning circle.
Very true.
They might easy, have, like rough torque and la 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 la.
That's why they need the macro inertial stable impact.
That's such a good one. Captain Kargan, as requested, is beamed back to the bridge where he confronts Riker.
You should have killed me.
I don't want your command.
But you tricked me to get it.
Either way, you can have it back.
Can you see the second in command going like, oh boy.
Yep. And the captain orders him to return to his station.
And he just kind of stands there.
Yeah.
Allows himself to get smacked.
And this is like a bit of sort of performance that absolutely everyone is in on it.
Oh, yes, totally.
Even the captain realizes, you're just doing this so I can save face.
Yep.
I hate you.
That's the whole thing. The same thing happened with Picard. Like, Picard surrenders because he knows that, like, okay, this is a way for the Klingons to save face. They can, like, back down from attacking.
Yep.
And this is the same thing. And the second officer goes like,
"You understand the Klingons better than I thought, Commander."
Then I thought
because he also gets what he wants. He wants off this ship. He's learned what he's got.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to serve under Kargan anymore.
There's been a little bit. No, absolutely not. That would be like dangerous at this point.
Yeah. If only because he's going to have to kill him sooner or later because he so profoundly disagrees with him.
With the command style.
And Riker shows back up on the Enterprise transporter room with a shiner.
Yeah.
It might have been one of the shortest assignments in the history of Starfleet.
He's awfully wobbly. Notice how he's pretending to be wobbly. He's holding on to the bulkhead. He's sort of limping as Worf walks him to the infirmary.
And they have a little heart-to-heart, like, thank you for your little device. It worked brilliantly, and glad to have you aboard.
You say heart-to-heart, but there's absolutely nothing sort of emotional here.
Well,
other than the, like...
You come from very brave and unique people. I'm glad you're with us on the Enterprise.
And then Worf said,
"Thank you, Commander, and welcome home."
There we go. Shall we do our MVP segment? That starts with this sound clip.
So fucking cool.
So what? Yeah, because we were confused about that last time because I sort of sprung it on you. So sorry about that. But Kay, what did you think was
so fucking cool
in this episode?
Oh, there's so many things to choose from.
Yeah, you can pick whatever you like.
Yeah. Oh, let's see. I think it's going to be the waiter in 10 Forward who just cooked up that Klingon meal.
Oh, wow. You've just got a line chef back there who's just flipping burgers and like, okay, got some pasta cooking. And what's up next? And he looks at this huge menu.
Order. This is not dim sum. Like, and his biggest problem would have been taking all those the gagh worms and like individually having to club them to death and then putting them in the dish and taking the next one, like, because he didn't know they were supposed to be served alive.
Okay, but that sounds awfully like your deleted scene. Like, what was actually
good point. That probably should have been the deleted scene.
So what was actually in the episode that you thought was so f***ing cool? Because actually, mine is that. Mine was Alan Sims and like the props department for that huge feast laid out on the Enterprise.
Very well, yeah.
I wonder if those were the same dishes that were just moved over to the next soundstage where the Klingon mess hall had been built.
Oh, good point. Probably.
Yeah.
That would make sense to shoot those in quick succession.
Or you just go to the market again and get some.
Another.
Get some
you never
legs.
know what this is like. Or maybe the caterer are just like, you want me to make what?
But it has to stand under hot studio lights for like 3 hours before you start rolling.
Yeah. No, I think my MVP would be Clark.
Clag, yeah,
because he does because he gets kind of shot. I assume he's usually the first officer, and he gets a temporary demotion.
Oh, good point.
And he has to take that up, and then deal with Riker. See his captain, like, oh yeah, he's being his usual complicated self. But he also has to kind of like keep an eye on Riker and how he that whole scene in the mess hall. I like what Clark does, how he conducts himself, how he clearly shows restraint. He's told him like, yes, I know you're supposed to stab him, but you're not supposed to do it right away. This is like would make bad form. He's probably had some sort of briefing about that beforehand, and he's really
the rules of stabbing.
Yes, like, cut him some slack, will you?
Oh yeah, he really is excellent. Hey, Kate, what do you think do you think he talks to his dad after this?
Oh, oof.
I not to go. That's also like deleted scene territory.
That is. I don't know.
Because he's had this experience with Riker now.
Uh-huh.
And like that was a really important sort of statement.
Yes. I mean, he'll definitely consider it, I think.
Yeah, right.
Depends on if he can like put himself over the cultural pressure to not do it.
Yeah. Well, then let's go into our
Captain's log, supplemental.
Well, I think I've already named 2 or 3. the mess hall scene. I mean, there could be the indoctrination room. It's like I'm kind of worried about trying to imagine what that would look like.
He's got like Clockwork Orange clamps on his eyelids, and he's just getting hollow information beamed into his brain.
Turn up the workahol to 40%.
Yeah, mine's going to be the Klingon getting to know you orgy. That definitely happened.
Oh, yes. What would be the icebreaker or icebreaker floor show?
Fingering.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, as we learned from Starbase 69, which is orbiting Risa instead of like Starbase 179,
which is apparently working on cloaking technology, because you don't see it.
Yeah, that's good, isn't it? No, we've got the sort of Universal Sex Act, as we learned from, what was it, Counselor Stephanie Chekhov?
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's the lore I came up with. The Counselor Stephanie Chekhov, like, doing it is like the universal, it works in every language. And then there's, in most cultures, have like finger stuff and over the pants stuff. And then like, getting to know you probably starts with over the pants stuff. And then you move on to finger stuff.
First base, second base, and third base, huh?
Yeah. And then you go, you know, speech orifice, and then you sort of work your way down from there, and then you see whatever.
And remember, not everybody keeps their genitals in the same place.
No, exactly. And like, you don't wear your armored mating clasps.
I mean, like, okay, so now I'm kind of like, because the famous scene is, of course, when somebody gets kicked in the knees.
Yeah, his exposed knee.
Yeah.
There's a cut on his pants, this alien in Star Trek The Undiscovered Country.
Okay, so like in English, you say playing footsie. But in Dutch, we say knietje vrijen, which is kind of like making out with the knees.
Knee necking.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
Wow. Actually, I've always really loved that word. Vrijen, the verb in Dutch, it comes from vrij, which means free.
Yeah.
And it's just this really lovely word because it can mean anything from making out to various forms of intercourse.
Yes.
And, you know, whatever you're doing, that's just what you feel like doing.
Yeah.
I like that it's so general.
All right.
Yeah, okay. Time for...
next week's quotes. Let's see if we can figure out what next week's episode is going to be.
We've been doing so good with our segments, Kay. I'm really proud of us. Okay, so, as always, our chief engineer has prepared for us some clues for what next week's episode is.
Bring it on.
How about you play along at home?
Get on. Get it on. No,
hit it on.
Hit it on. That's one. I need to use that phrase more often.
Yeah. Okay, here's our first clue.
Boys, together we're going to reconquer an empire or die in the attempt.
Oh.
Narrowing it down a little bit,
I'm going to say
boys.
Klingons. Okay, boys, we're going to... Okay, yeah.
Who says boys?
Yeah.
Okay, next one.
Because under all these clothes, I know I'm totally naked.
Wait, what?
This is starting to sound like Voyager. It's like that would sound like a thing that Tom Paris would say.
This sounds like those aliens from Dude, Where's My Car? We are not guys. We are hot chicks with large breasts.
Drink Sluggo Cola and keep your teeth that lovely shade of green.
Oh, that must be Lower Decks.
No, it's Ferengis.
Oh, right.
They're drinking Sluggo Cola. Oh my God. I think I know.
Tell me the bad news. It might cheer me up.
Well,
tell me the bad news. It might cheer me up.
That sounds like something Quark would say. But
better tell me the yeah. Oh, we're getting so much closer. One more.
It made me more compassionate, more empathetic, more nurturing.
Oh, no.
I feel like I'm trapped in my worst nightmare.
Oh,
that's definitely a Quark.
Yeah,
that's definitely a Quark.
Guys, I think this is going to be a really difficult one. I think this is a widely unbeloved and tough to love episode because I think this is...
The episode is DS9, Season 6, Episode 23,
Profit and Lace. Yeah. Oh, no.
I, for one, am looking forward to that.
So am I.
I love all those Quarkisms there. Like,
I'm looking forward to seeing that with you. Hey, thank you so much for listening once again. There's nothing more to say, but...
The hell is this?
I'm leaving Starfleet.
Energize!
Oh.
What?
I know.
How do you still get it wrong?
We hope you've enjoyed this week's episode with friends Kay and Kaki, production and editing by your chief engineer Greg, and music by Fox Amour. Join us next time for DS9 Season 6 Episode 23, Prophet and Lace. Visit joyoftrek.com/links to send us your recommendations, support us on Patreon, or to find us on Twitter. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you for listening to The Joy of Trek, and we'll see you out there.